Is reality in sight? Inner battles keep me up at night. Sane enough for a new day. Sane enough to find my way. Working on myself, building my name.
Thank you for tuning in to Sane Enough. I'm Coach Eric, and today we're going to talk about the voices in your head. Yes, those voices. Do they make you crazy? Are they a sign that you're crazy? Well, maybe you believe the old saying that talking to yourself's all right, but it's when you start arguing or answering back that you've got a real problem. We'll address that. When it comes to mental performance, there's a lot of things that people have myths about, that people have stories about, that may or may not be true, but they're all founded in the same principle, and that is we need to get better, we need to get stronger, not just physically, but in our mental performance. So, here on Sane Enough, we're going to tackle those topics. Today, we're going to talk about visualization. I know everyone from life coaches to psychologists, they all recommend it. But is it just busy work? Is it just something that looks really good on TV shows and movies? Is it filler for self-help books and podcasts? Or is there actually something useful in the concept of visualization? Usually the first thing they do when they tell you they want you to visualize yourself is they say, close your eyes, take a breath, picture yourself succeeding. I mean, that's a good idea. It's not the only idea, but it's a good place to start. But before we can get into that and talk about the other ideas, there's a skill in there that you need to learn that's going to help with your mental performance, not just with visualizations, but with everything you learn and do that requires you to concentrate, to focus, with everything you do that requires you to relax, with something you had to do just to get up this morning, and that's breathing. Of course, you know how to breathe or you wouldn't be able to listen to this. But when it comes to mental performance, when it comes to having a quality breath, there are techniques, there are skills out there that can help you reach your mental peak easier, better, and with control. So, the first skill we're going to learn today is how to take a good quality breath. I'm not talking about, excuse me as I breathe into the microphone, I'm talking about a quality breath. One where you relax, you take a deep breath in through your nose, you let it fill up your chest cavity all the way down to your stomach, and you almost feel like your stomach's bulging out like you're full. You kind of hold that inhale for 5 seconds, really, really filling your body. And then under control, you release it out through your mouth in a nice, slow, controlled pattern for at least 5 to 10 seconds. You don't want to just exhale. You want to exhale nice and controlled. So it goes something like this. And if you didn't hear very much there, it's a pretty good sign I did it right. You don't want it to be loud. You don't want it to be an explosion of breath in or an explosion of breath out. You want to get control. So before you can visualize your future self, before you can calm yourself down, before you can jump into your ABCs or any of the other tools that can help you be a better you, first, you have to get control of your body. And step one is the good breath. So I would like you to take a moment with me here and take one good breath. Close your eyes. Inhale in nice and slow and controlled. Exhale nice and controlled. Don't let that breath explode out. Just release it. Now you're in a better place. Now, let's talk about it. So, with visualization, there are a lot of options out there. All right. Some are going to work for you. Some aren't. Here's the thing about mental health. There's no right answer. There's lots and lots of questions. And for each question, there's lots and lots of additional answers. And many of those answers are just going to drive you towards more questions. it's almost like seeking sanity is going to drive you insane. So what you have to do is you have to capture the entire field of vision that you can see. Look out there. Don't just get stuck on one thing. Hey, this worked for my best friends. It's going to work for me. Hey, my coach said this is what's going to work, so it's going to work for me. That's not necessarily true. There's not a right or a wrong answer to this. There's just a journey. There's just a process. And you need to embrace that process. You don't need to be a Zen master to have a quality visualization. You don't have to be a yoga master to get out there on the mat and learn how to stretch and breathe and pose. Everybody starts somewhere. The best baseball players in the world not only learned by hitting off a tee, but continue to work off the tee. Why? Because those fundamental skills are critical to their success at the highest level. The same is going to be true with your mental health. So, work on your breathing techniques. The first one we've worked on here, the one good breath, focus on that. Take the time. If you need to hit pause right now and just want to go through that a few times, that's fantastic. Do that, because mastering the one good breath is what's going to be the first step to everything else we're going to talk about today. So when you hear about visualization, there's the very standard traditional things, and we'll get into that, the meditations, the future self, the vision boards. We'll talk about that. But we're also going to talk about some of those next step things that don't feel quite as overused to the point of being a stereotype. So we'll touch on the stereotypical visualization things, and we'll also expand on it and give you some other techniques, and we'll try to find the one that works for you. And once you've locked in on that, you can work towards getting better and better at it and still go back and visit all those other ones. And here's the best part. Even if it's a stereotype, even if it's getting out poster board, cutting up pictures of things you want, like a speedboat or a car or a family, even if it's that, and it makes you feel real pumpkin spice level basic, but if it works for you, it's good. Do it. Don't let what I say or what anybody else says make you feel judged for doing something that makes you better. We all have our thing. And hey, it's okay to like light beer. It's okay to put creamer in your coffee. And it's okay to make a vision board. So let's go ahead and get into this thing, right? Guided visualization. That's the biggie, right? The meditative visualization. That's where you close your eyes and you imagine your future self in detail. I'm talking about focusing on achievements, focusing on the habits that you had to develop to become that future self. I'm talking about the relationships that you had to build and the relationships you had to sever to get there. Why? Because to be that future self person, you have to understand both the physical and the emotional process that got you to be that guy, right? Because you want to be that guy or that girl. Guided meditation or meditations that's guided by scripts but is self-guided can help you reach structure in that process. And there's a lot of great tools out there, a lot of workflows that you can do to get there as a self-guided method. Or go out and find yourself a professional, and they can help guide you through those early meditations so that you can discover who your future self is. Now, there are ways you can step this up. It's not just sit with your legs crossed and close your eyes and breathe and just picture how awesome you're going to be, because you're going to be awesome, right? That's why we're here. You can picture yourself in a very specific place. Picturing yourself where you want to get to, right? And then place your current self there with you. Okay, so you've got future self there and you've got now self, right? And have a conversation with yourself. Hey, look, how did you get here? What did you do? What was the hardest thing you had to overcome in order to become the me I want to be? I know, you're talking to yourself again, right? Great. Do it out loud. Do it in front of a mirror. Do it in your head. Do it quietly while you're sitting on the subway or on a bus. Got a long drive ahead of you? Awesome time to hash it out with your future self. Go at it. Imagine what you would tell you, and then tell yourself that, because that's how you're going to identify that process you need to reach that future self. Now, if you're into sci-fi and you like kind of the cool entertainment side of it, you can go another step, right? You're not just magically in that room. Fully embrace the idea of time travel. Okay? Find a location that's going to be your time travel spot. Might be a special chair in a special room. Might be every time you get in your car. Wherever it is, mentally tell yourself, hey, this is my time travel process. I sit down here, I take a drink of water, I close my eyes, and I imagine myself rolling the clock forward or rolling the clock back so that I can talk to myself, right? So since we're talking about visualization and we're talking about the future, we're not going to roll the clock back. That's for different times. But for right now, so you roll that clock forward and you see yourself, you see the calendar flying by in your eyes. And now you open your eyes and there you are in the future with your future self. And you're sitting down to have that critical interview where you say, hey, help me become you. Don't be embarrassed to do it out loud. Don't be embarrassed to do it in your head. Don't be afraid of what the future can be for you, because you need to identify it, and visualization is a great way to do it. Take it as far as you're comfortable taking it, and then take it just a little bit farther and test your boundaries. Now, I made fun of it a little bit earlier, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, and that's vision boards. I don't hate vision boards. They're the first visualization tool I was ever introduced to, like a lot of people, right? And the idea was you get a cork board and you stick pins in it with pictures of all these things you want to accomplish in life. That was the first way I was taught. I know a lot of people were taught, get out the glue stick and piece of poster board. The idea being that if you can look at it, if you can focus on it, you can tell yourself that's what you want, then you can try and achieve that. And it's a good, basic, but reliable method of visualizing what you need to accomplish. But there are ways you can step that up. There's ways you can improve that process. For example, you can do it digitally. When I learned that task, computers weren't exactly up to the building a vision board level. They are now. There are not only apps out there that can help you do it, but you can go onto Google Slides or anything like that and build your vision board digitally. That will allow you to add movies and GIFs and pictures and do writing. And you put all this extra things in there. You can create checklists. And so your vision board can become much more than just something you look at, but it's something you interact with. So if you take it off the wall and put it on your computer, it becomes interactive. And you can print it out and have both on the wall and interactive. If you really want to step it up, you can have digital in specific categories, right? You can have physical in specific categories. It's not limited to the digital, it's just easier there, right? So you got slide 1, it's showing you what you want to achieve as far as economics, right? You want a house, you want money, you want a savings account, you want to retire. You can have slide 2 showing you what you want to accomplish in relationships, the love of your life, having a family, being a strong solo individual till the end. All of those are great options. You just have to put it together so that you know what it is. So you've identified what it is for you. And digitalization and breaking down into category specific things can help you focus that board out of the stereotype of this collage of crazy disconnected ideas into a tool that is focused and helpful for you. Now, maybe that's not how your brain works. Maybe your brain's like, hey, I want to celebrate my future. Cool. Go with the classic board. But there are other options, and everybody needs to know what those options are. And if you are an artistic person and vision boards is just the start for you, maybe what you want to do is become dedicated to visualization through either drawing or painting, whatever your specific art format is. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's clay. Maybe it's molding the perfect vase. There's a million things out there that you can do that will touch on the artistic side of your being. And you can use those to channel your future self, right? So you can talk to your future self, as we talked about earlier, but you can also draw what it is your future self's going to look like. You can paint what it is your future self's going to accomplish. And you can do that even if you're not an artist. The great step up to the artistic visualization is that It can be something as simple as crayons on a blank piece of printer paper, crayons in a coloring book that you grab at the dollar store, right? Because what you're doing is expressing yourself for yourself. There's nobody grading it. You're not sending it in to me here at Coach Eric at Saying Enough and saying, hey, how awesome is my painting of my future self? And then I'd say, no, that's a C minus. No. First of all, it's an A plus. They're all A pluses. Why? Because if I tell you anything else, you're going to start to give up on yourself. No, everything's an A plus. And here's the real truth behind it. It's an A plus till the next time you do it, and then that becomes the new standard. And that becomes the A plus. And everything before that goes down. And you just keep building on it and building on it and building on it and building on it. Well, but doesn't that defeat the purpose of grades? Yep. Because when it comes to your mental health, it's not about grades. It's about improvement, step by step. Don't stress whether or not you're a good artist. Just stress whether or not you're going to do the work. And if you're not, throw that idea away. One of the things I love from an artistic standpoint is doing something called mind mapping, right? This is where you make a visual map of your goals. Draw out the steps to achieving them. You put your future self in the middle, right? It can be a stick figure of you. Doesn't matter. And you draw lines off of it. And these lines working left to right or right to left or just chaos. Doesn't matter. It's however your brain sees it. Show the different steps that you have to take to get there. And they can be line drawings. They can be crayon drawings. They can be paintings. The important thing is you put yourself in the middle and you start to draw out what it is you want to do. We can cover that in detail in another episode because there is a lot that goes into it. Just want to touch on that for you. We're going to move on to written methods now. Like any artwork, writing doesn't have a right or wrong answer. You don't have to be skilled at it. Your grammar doesn't have to be good. I'm not running spell check on you. And there's a million programs out there that will if you need them to. With writing, the most common method that I hear people talking about is writing the letter to their future self, right? So you sit down, get out a pen and paper or your keyboard, and you hack it out. Dear future self, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to be. These are my hopes, my dreams. And hey, I've got these questions that I'm going to have to answer. So here's some questions for you. So what do you think? Right? Well, the next step to that, the step up to that is to write back. What good is it to write to the future self if the future self never writes back, right? This isn't Santa Claus. This isn't you sending out this letter and you're hoping stuff shows up under the tree. There's work to be done here. So write yourself, from yourself, to yourself, and then write back to yourself. Tell yourself, hey, past self, this is what I did. Give yourself some steps that are achievable, realistic, accomplishable. Give yourself encouragement. This is critical. Future self can't be dogging on you. Can't be saying you're not good enough. Future self has to say, hey, I wouldn't be here if you didn't have it in you to be here. So write it down. Make it real. If you really want to take it a step further, have future self write a journal. Have future self write a journal side by side with current self and find the spot when they match up. As you're working months or years from now, you're going to come to a place where you say, Dear journal, today and you're going to realize that what you're writing down is the same stuff you wrote down 6 months ago as something future self told present, or in that case, past self. You need to do this, and you can do this because you're great at this. And if you're not great at it, you're at least good enough because here I am. It's important to put things into perspective. So you don't want to make it outlandish, right? You don't want to say, hey, past self, you're so awesome. I know you're going to grow wings and fly. No, you're not. You're not. But you might get your pilot's license if that's your goal. So be realistic, but also be adventurous. Be grounded, but be enthusiastic. Write down what you want to do and tell yourself, I can do it. I'm going to do it. And it's critical. It's critical to be goal-oriented. And that brings us to our next visualization path, and that is the goal-based pathway. We're talking about creating a mental and physical timeline. So you can write this down, you can paint this, you can draw it with crayons, you can build slides. There's a million ways to do this one. This one is something that is a process that you can use other visualization techniques within it. But in and of itself, it is different because of how organized it is. This is not going to be one of those chaos things where it just looks really good and makes you feel good and makes you feel motivated. This is going to be a vision pathway. This is going to be step by step, showing yourself how to get there. And if you want to step it up, not only are you going to work left to right across a timeline, right? But you're going to reverse engineer this thing. Start at the end, not at the beginning. I want to be here, X. I got there by doing this. Boom, 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 boom. And keep putting those different items down until you get back to today. By working backwards, you've identified the most important thing, and that's the big goal. If you use the kebab method, if you use the workflow sheet method, they all have the same thing. They have that big final goal. And then they've got the meat on the kebab, those steps, those critical baby steps, those critical giant steps that you'll take en route to that big goal, right? But if you start at the end, if you say that is it, and then you work your way back step by step by step down the kebab, that creates your will to get there, right? Because you've identified it. You've identified step 1, step 5, and the big step. And then we can work down. If you're doing the workflow sheet, something you can pick up on intracognism.com, the workflow sheet then takes that down and you break it down into limiting factors and resources. So you can address those things, right? But the big thing is you've created this timeline. You've created the where you are and the where you want to get to. And whether you start at the beginning and work your way up, which is traditional, or you start at the end and you work your way back, that's your step-up method. The important thing is you've set goals and you've visualized what those goals are, and you've done it in a manner that helps you help you. All right, I know we've been listing a lot of crazy stuff. Most of it is pretty normal, and then we give you a little bit of twist to it. Maybe not a lot of exciting things yet, but how about some experimental stuff? How about some stuff where you've got to put yourself out there? Because there's a lot of methodology out there, and one of the ones that's really exciting and really starting to gain traction is role-playing. Hey, look, I don't care what you do in your private life. I'm not talking about that role playing. I'm not talking about LARPing. I'm also not talking about pen and paper games or video games. No, it's the same concept though, right? You are going to act as your future self. Just like you can talk to your future self, just like you can draw your future self, you can just be like, hey, dude, I'm myself. Make decisions not as you right now, not making that safe decision you would make today. Make the decision like you're you in the future, the you want to be. Would they take the safe approach? Maybe. So then you do that. Would they take the aggressive approach? Maybe. What if they take the really empathetic approach? Whatever it is for your future self, you need to identify that, channel that, and say, I'm going today to act as. I'm going to be that person. So it's huge, right? And you can step that up. It doesn't have to just be how you act. It can be how you live. Create a space that is your future space, right? A physical, actual location. Maybe you've got your future self's desk chair. You saved up and you got that ergonomic, lumbar support, adjustable arms desk chair of a winner. Right? That's how you see that. Maybe you've got that red swing line stapler right there on the desk because that is how you picture yourself in the future, knowing that you've won. And it doesn't have to be something that's expensive. It doesn't have to be that expensive chair. It doesn't have to be monetarily based. Maybe what you do is you go in and you pull out some old clothes and use those to stuff an old beanbag chair. Now it's big and fluffy instead of beaten down to a pulp like it has been. It's no longer a pancake. It's good to go. And you put that in the corner. And instead of it being a time machine like we talked about earlier, now what it is, it reflects your future self, because your future self is more relaxed. Maybe you're a really high-stressed individual, and instead of looking for something goal-oriented, which is what we have been talking about for the most part today, maybe what you're trying to do is relax a little bit. Well, guess what? There's a future self skill for that too. Maybe what you need to do is create that chill environment. Maybe what you need is a yoga area. You get a yoga mat. That yoga mat could be from the sporting goods store. It could be ordered online. It might just be an old kitchen mat or an old blanket, but you've identified it in your mind as your yoga mat. That's your yoga corner. This is how you're going to become the person you want to be. You're going to do these things because that person would have these things. And maybe in your mind, that person has a bright, brand new, thick memory foam mat. But maybe what you can afford today isn't that. But you know what it represents. So don't stress it. Work with it. That's the entire key here. It's not about making life harder on yourself. It's about seeing where you want to get to and making getting there easier. So create that space, then visualize that space being what it's supposed to represent. And surround yourself with those future self items and celebrate them. Celebrate the accomplishment. If you manage to achieve relaxation, if you manage to achieve purchasing an item that fits your space, give yourself a hand, pat yourself on the back. It's okay to celebrate you. You're worth celebrating. Take a moment, close your eyes, relax. We have covered a lot of stuff, and we still have a little more of this general knowledge on visualization to go. So before we get to these last two line items on my script for today, because that's what I visualized for my show, I want you to breathe for a minute. Take that one good breath. Really fill out your lungs, fill out your body cavity, really puff up your chest, and calmly release it. Calmly release it. Geez, Coach Eric, you threw a lot at me. Geez, Coach Eric, that's a lot of information. Why do we have to do so many things in just one quick episode? Well, some episodes are going to be like that. Some episodes we're going to use the shotgun approach. We're going to throw a lot of things at the wall, see what works for you, and then in a future episode, break it down to the nitty-gritty, right? So today's last two things are less about maximizing skills within visualization. We talked about half a dozen ways of maximizing visualization skills by using a process that'll help you maximize that. These are more about your interactions with yourself, when to do it, how to do it, when you're trying to visualize your future self, right? So the most common one is the morning visualization ritual, the routine, the process starter. What it says, you spend 5 to 10 minutes every morning visualizing your future self. You take a breath. You close your eyes. You see yourself a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road as the person you want to be. There are ways to help that, right? The most stereotypical one, the one that shows up on television shows the most, especially in comedic ways, is the daily affirmation, where you reflect on your future self's attributes and you repeat them back to yourself and you tell yourself, I am good enough. I am this person. I will get these things done. And that's a great skill set. And it's really unfortunate that it's gotten a little bit of a stigma because pop culture saw it and went, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we had a guy telling himself that all the time? Well, you know what? It's not funny. It works, but it's also funny. It's okay to laugh at yourself too. When you catch yourself talking to yourself and someone else sees you talking to yourself, don't get defensive. Don't be like, yeah, I was just trying this stupid self-affirmation thing. You know, I mean, I saw it on Saturday Night Live. It's no big deal, right? No, own it. Hey, I want to be better. This helps me. Maybe you should try it. Step it up, right? Mirror work. Look into the mirror and talk to your current self. Talk to your future self. If you need to, talk to your previous self. Reinforce the positives. Throw away the negatives. This isn't a time for the negatives. Don't look in that mirror and be like, dude, you're not good enough. You are good enough. That's why we're here, getting better. So look into that mirror and say, I'm going to accomplish tasks A, B, and C today. Today, I'm going to act as future self for 1 hour. Today, I am going to take my time machine and I'm going to hit the gas. I'm going to go 5 years in the future and I'm going to check out what I look like owning my own business. Look in the mirror. Tell yourself what you're going to do. Encourage yourself. Remind yourself of the critical things that are part of your kebab for today. And get there, right? Make it part of your identity shift. That you look yourself in the eyes and you make a deal with you. Other things you can do on a daily basis. You can read those affirmations. You can read a visualization prompt. If you're interested in one of those, we'll go into detail on that another time. But you can read that prompt and you can read it on your phone, record it. And rather than reread it every morning, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're combing your hair, while you're getting dressed, hit play and have your phone read it to you. But make sure you're listening. Make sure you remember that it's important, right? You can do other things while you're doing it, but make sure that it's registering in your brain. And if you're doing lots of stuff, listen to it twice. One of the cool new things we started doing, and at the end of this episode, I'm going to play for you a visualization song that I did for one of my young athletes who's aspiring to be an elite athlete. You know, he's got to work through things and he's got to be better. And he wanted a song and a style of music he liked that would promote his inner beast, right? And there's an artist out there named T. Powell who does a great job with this for his genre of music and for primarily football athletes, but for other athletes as well. And this young man wanted a song that would do that for him with kind of a country tune to it. So we'll listen to that at the end. But it's a great concept where we can put together a visualization music for our people. And if you're not a musician, there are other ways to do that. Reach out to us. We can help you with it. But having something to listen to that reaffirms your goals and where you want to go and what you want to do or who you are as a person is great. And you can add it to your playlist. It can stand alone. The key to it is knowing that that is part of you and who you want to be. And the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the music is the group-based visualization. One of the hardest things for people working on their mental health, for people working on their mental performance, for people who are evaluating all those voices in their head and trying to say, hey, am I normal? Is including anybody else in the conversation. So the last visualization process you need to consider for yourself, and it's all a big step up on this one. The whole thing is a big step up. Group-based visualization. You're not alone. You're not the only person who needs to look out there and say, hey, that future self is something I want to accomplish. So you can do it with a partner. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's family. Maybe it's just somebody else who's listening to the same podcast as you. And you guys get together over the phone, over Skype, over whatever your conference software of choice is. And you just say to each other, hey, this is my vision. This is what I want to be. The other person doesn't even have to say anything back to you. They can. They give you words of encouragement. Hopefully, they're not going to give you negative feedback, but constructive feedback is always okay, as long as you've agreed up front that that's all right. Set rules. Always set rules, right? Hey, we're going to have this call. Constructive feedback's good. No insults. I'm going to tell you who I want to be, what I want to do, how I want to get there. And when we're done with that, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to tell it to me, and I'm going to look you in the eyes and say, you can do this. Because it's one thing to look in the mirror and tell yourself you can do it, and that is critical. If you've never done a mirror visualization, if you've never looked yourselves in the eyes and made a deal, do it. But it's a whole other thing when you include somebody else. And when it's a family member and a trusted loved one, there's a little bit of comfort in that. There's some safety in that. But if you pull in a stranger or a virtual stranger, somebody who doesn't know you the way that your mother, your sister, your brother, your best friend knows you, a teammate, you're really going out there on a limb. But there's a safety net there too. They're not part of your daily life. So you can tell them things that you'd be afraid to tell the family member you see every day. And they can tell you things that they want to accomplish that you have no idea if they have the resources to do it, but it doesn't matter because you can then look at them and say, hey, if you can tell me that that's what you want to do, I believe you. You can do this. And that reaffirming of their belief that they can do it will go a world ahead for them. It will make a huge difference for their ability to reach that future self. And it'll not only help you to hear them tell you that, it'll help you to tell them they can do it. Because if you can tell them that their crazy dream is achievable, you're also telling yourself yours is. Because all of us have crazy dreams. This podcast was my crazy dream. Maybe I'm going to succeed and be hugely successful. Maybe I'm not. But I'm putting it out there to all of you who take the time to listen to this. Sane Enough is going to be an ongoing podcast because I want to help you. I want to help you help me. And I want to help you help me help you. That's how this process works, right? So it's group-based visualization. You can do workshops. There are actually places set up for group, not just AA meetings, not just things that you feel like might be punitive. They don't have to be faith-based. They can be, and that's often a great way to do it. But there are workshops, there are communities, there are co-ops, there are places where you can go and meet like-minded individuals to help with mental performance tasks. And the big part of this, the final big part of this group activity is going to be those feedback loops, right? I talked about it. You set the ground rules up front, then those feedback loops are going to be positive, even if they include constructive criticism. It's still a positive to hear them, right? And I give you feedback, you give me feedback, Jim gets feedback, Jane gets feedback, everybody gets feedback. We give it, we receive it, and both the giving and receiving help us. So, the half a dozen skills of visualization that we talked about all feed into the two primary drivers, and that is daily integration in your life with yourself and group integration with people you trust and or with strangers. Find places and ways to visualize who you want to be, and don't let the concept or the stereotype dissuade you from doing it. Don't be stopped because you're not sure you can. Don't be stopped because you're not sure the person in the room next to you would agree that this is going to work. Don't be stopped by the questions. And please do not be stopped because you're afraid to ask the questions. Because what you can't get is an answer if you never ask the question. So if you don't ask yourself, hey, who do I want to be? How are you going to paint a path to get there? Are you going to leave it up to fate to take a blind journey into the future? Or are you going to sit down and talk to yourself? And you say, hey, voices, you keep telling me I'm not good enough. You keep telling me I'm not going to get it done. You keep telling me I did it wrong. Well, what do I need to do it right? What does right look like? And find out what right looks like and then write it down. Set it to music. Paint it. Tell somebody about it. Look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, this is what I want to be. This is what right looks like to me. Then when you're arguing with yourself, you've got a target. But Coach Eric, I don't want to talk to myself. None of these tools worked for me. I tried them all, I swear, I promise. Not a single one helped me out. Well, there are some things you can do if they didn't work for you. First of all, there's 1,000,001 tools out there. So visualization's not for you. Cool. Let's move on. But before we move on, ask yourself, did you really talk to yourself? Did you really commit to visualizing your future self? Did you really commit to the methodology you chose? Did you find allies? And if you haven't, because that's a really difficult task, do you have it in you to go find allies? To go out into the world and find other people ready to take this journey with you? Have you talked to a professional? There are coaches out there that you can meet in person. There are coaches out there who you can talk on the phone with. There are coaches out there who will do it over Skype, GoToMeeting, FaceTime, whatever your choice is, whatever their choice is in some cases. There are artificial intelligence coaches out there. Hey, don't knock AI till you try it. If you're really, really, really embarrassed to talk to somebody, but you need to talk to somebody, because we all need to talk to somebody, find an AI coach. That's a somebody who can't judge you. They're a computer, right? Start there. Start baby steps. Find the path forward for you. You can check me out on intracognism.com. I'll have tools available for you. Our team is happy to work with people. But the important thing is you have to know that you're not crazy just because you can't visualize. You aren't nuts just because one of these things don't work for you. You aren't wrong if they make you uncomfortable. Relax. Just relax. No tool helps everybody. So stay with me and let's keep working on you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Sane Enough. We'll dive deeper into specific visualization techniques we discussed here in future episodes. For now, though, I hope you found a deeper understanding of the numerous tools available to you. And hey, there's even more of them out there than I talked about. So, go out to the world. Take a look at it. Visualize what you want to do. Do a little homework. Get your hands dirty. Find a way to your better self. So to close out, we're going to listen to a visualization song. I touched on this earlier. I created this for an athlete to help him maintain confidence, and he's worked through some slumps to achieve that goal, that elite status that he aims for. If you have any questions, or if there's some topics you'd like to be addressed in the future, I can be reached at Coach Eric at intracognism.com, or there's a form to fill out on our website, www.intracognism.com. I'm Coach Eric, and this has been Sane Enough.
Out on the field where the sun beats down, he's a beast wearing that crown. Got the heart of a lion, soul of a fighter. Every step he takes, man, it just gets brighter. He's carrying the load, never backing down. With sweat on his brow, he'll beat that clown. Visualizing the future, he sees it so clear. Chasing that dream, he's got nothing to fear. He's grinding hard, putting in the work. With every rep, he'll show that jerk. Chasing the dream, crushing it fast. Ain't no stopping him, he's built to last. With a heart full of fire and a spirit of gold, he's a beast, he's a star, he's a force to behold. Every day he's hitting the gym, pushing through the pain, never looking grim. Got a vision in his mind, a goal in his sight. Getting in the game, winning is his right. he's carrying the load, never backing down. With sweat on his brow, he'll beat that clown. Visualizing the future, he sees it so clear. Chasing that dream, he's got nothing to fear. He's grinding hard, putting in the work. With every rep, he'll show that jerk. Chasing the dream, crushing it fast. Ain't no stopping him, he's built to last. With a heart full of fire and a spirit of gold, he's a beast, he's a star, he's a force to behold. So when the lights shine bright and the crowd goes wild, he's ready to go with names stockpiled. With grit in his soul and a fire in his eyes, he's taking the lead, he's ready to rise. With every rip, I'll show that jerk. Chasing the dream, crushing it fast. Ain't no stopping me, I'm built to last. With a heart full of fire and a spirit of gold, I'm a beast, I'm a star, I'm a force to behold. So here's to the dreamers, the fighters, the brave. They ignore the haters and never cave. Found their own road to victory, their own way to win. With hard work and hustle, let the journey begin. So here's to the dreamers, the fighters, the brave. We ignore the haters and never cave. Found our own road to victory, our own way to win. With hard work and hustle, let the journey begin.
Thank you for sticking around and listening to Wear That Crown. It'll hopefully be available very soon through major streaming services, so you can find it and listen to it on your own. It'll be under Atomic Phonographs. There'll be future songs loaded there as well as we're working through publishing our songs. But the important thing is find songs that work for you, make songs that work for you, or find somebody who can make songs that work for you. For Sane Enough, I'm Coach Eric. Have a sane enough day.
Voices in my mind, they call my name. Whispering doubts, losing the game. Talking to myself, is reality in sight? Inner battles keep me up at night. Sane enough for a new day. Sane enough to find my way. Working on myself, building my name. Questioning doubts, changing the game. Voices are my strength, reality in sight. Talking through it, I can sleep at night. Sane enough for a new day. Sane enough to find my way. Oh! Sane enough for a new day. Sane enough to find my way.